Hey everyone, this is quite a cool lab. In this hands-on lab, we are going to learn about how can you migrate on-premises application to Azure App Services. So first we are going to validate some of the applications which is hosted on-premises, and then we are going to use some of the commands and Azure Migrate services to migrate that to Azure App Services. Then post that, we are going to learn about what are the additional things which we can do within the Azure realm to test the load or do the insights or understand how the application is performing and things like that. I hope you're going to enjoy this lab. I will see you on the next one. Take care. Let's go and launch the Internet Information Services Manager or IIS Manager. Open the Internet Information Services Manager. On the left hand side, expand the sites. Here you can see that there are 4 applications already running. The first one is Blazor application. This is a .NET application. This is running on port 80. So let's click on browse. Let's launch that application. This is a sample application and this is running on port 80. Let's minimize this. The next one is MVC Music Store. This is again a .NET application. This is running on port 8081. Let's click on browse. You can see that it's a basic music store application, some catalog of information available for someone to go and purchase sample information for albums and stuff like that. Then we have the time tracker. This is a legacy .NET application and it is running on port 8080. So let's launch that. So looks like a legacy application. Somebody need to log in to get into the time tracker and stuff like that. And the last one is the default one. This is again a legacy .NET application using Windows authentication. So if you click on browse, it's running on 81. So you need to authenticate to Windows to log into that application. So these applications, what we have seen, are intended to demonstrate 3 scenarios. One example is we are going to use an application that is ready to be migrated to Azure App Service without no modification. Second, we use an example where our application is ready to be migrated but requires a minor modification to work properly on app services. Third, an application that is not ready to be migrated and requires a major modification to be migrated to Azure App Services. So in this particular lab, we are going to run a PowerShell script to conduct several baseline checks on the application running in IIS. So when you do that, the script will generate a JSON file that tells us about the migration status of each application. Additionally, we are going to leverage Azure Migrate application and code assessment for .NET, which is going to allow us to access .NET code source, configurations and binaries of our application to identify migration opportunities to Azure. So for this lab, I have several scripts which I have put in the C drive. So these are the scripts we are going to use for this testing, and we are going to use PowerShell. So let's go and launch PowerShell. Type in PowerShell, right click, run as administrator, click yes. Let's go to the directory where we are keeping the scripts. So that is under C drive scripts. Hit enter. First, I'm going to run get site readiness PowerShell. This is basically to execute the application assessment script. So let's run that script. Alright, so to run this script, you need to trust it. To run once, I'm going to provide R, enter. Again, there is a security warning, run and run again. Alright, so you can see that the readiness checks complete. The readiness results outputted to readiness results.json, and we can look into the JSON for the results. Before that, let's look into the report. So first is report generated for the default site name. First and foremost, it couldn't check because of the authentication error for that particular site. The next is the reporter generated for the time tracker. And it says that no blocking issues found on this site and is ready to be migrated to Azure. Third is report generated for MVC Music Store and no blocking issue to be found and site is ready for migration to Azure. And finally, the report generated for Blazor and there is no blocking issue found and it's ready to move into Azure. And you can see that there is a couple of warnings for time tracker and MVC Music Store. That's because of the port issue. Now let's go and analyze these applications with Visual Studio. So let's go and launch Visual Studio. Before we go there, I just want to show you something. For this exercise, we already pre-prepared this to have the Azure Migrate Application and Code Assessment in the Visual Studio extension. So let me quickly show you how you can do that. So let's go to your Visual Studio, run as administrator. Yes. Within that, click on continue without code. And on the top ribbon, you can find extensions. I'm going to quickly close this. Click on extensions and click on manage extensions. Here you can search for Azure Migrate. You can see that Azure Migrate Application and Code Assessment, it's already installed. I can click on update. There is an update for it. So that's good. So this is how you can come in here, and if you don't have it and you're doing this in your lab, just do this particular task. That is going to download the Azure Migrate Application and Code Assessment. And when you close it, it is going to automatically install the changes what we have made. And to install it, click on modify, and that is going to update the Azure Migrate Application and Code Assessment. The modification is completed, so click on close. So now let's go and open the Visual Studio again. Right click, run as administrator, click yes. Within the Visual Studio, click on open a project or solution. And first let's open the music store, open the folder. Oh, it's under C. So let's go and find the folder, C apps, music store main, and let's open the app. It's preparing the solution and it's going to launch the application for us. So to refactor to Azure, so all we have to do is select the application within the Solution Explorer, right click, and you can see there is an option called Read Platform to Azure. So on the left hand side, you can see that the Azure Migrate Application and Code Assessment for .NET is ready for us to do the next steps. So either you can start a new report or open an existing report. So we're going to click on create new report and let's select Azure App Service Windows. So this is going to discover any sort of issues and incidents with the replatform to Azure App Service for Windows application. So you can see that there are other modules for Linux, container applications and things like that. So let's select Azure App Service Windows and click next and click next. And let's here in the analyze settings, just leave the default. If you want to add binary dependencies or custom settings, you can do that. We're going to just click on analyze. And this is going to generate the compatibility report. All right. So in this generated report, you can see there are several alerts. You can see there are two mandatory alerts. I think that is to do with the Windows authentication incidents and other informations for your compatibility to do with modification and things like that. You can filter this based by project, and you can look into these issues, incidents, and aggregated issues as well. And some of these databases are not available for this exercise, so we cannot migrate this. So let's go to the Visual Studio and let's go to the file, open. This time go and open project solution, and let's see if we can open the Blazor app. So I know where it is residing. So it's under C, users, admin, sources, repos. So let's see if we can directly go to the folder first, and let's open the project. We are not gonna do any modification changes, so no Now we are going to do the same thing for the Blazor app as well. Right click, click on re-platform to Azure, click on new report, Azure App Service Windows, click next, next, and click on analyze. Here you can see there is no mandatory issues. That's good. If you want to understand, like in the previous app there was a lot of issues, so if you are somebody who works on this and if you want to interpret this analysis results, this particular article kind of gives you a detailed analysis on how you can interpret these issues with different codes and things like that. So have a look into this. It's called interpret the analysis result. This is under migrate to Azure. Now, because there is no issues in this, let's go and learn how you can prepare the Blazor application for migration. So first, let's go and launch the PowerShell and let's run the script. This is the readiness result we have run before. So I'm gonna run that again. R to run, R to run again. All right, so the Blazor has been packaged and it is stored under scripts packages, and so the application is ready to be migrated. Now we can do this manually in Azure by going into the Azure portal, or you can do that in the PowerShell. So let me show you the PowerShell experience. So click on connect AZ account. This is how you can connect to an Azure account from PowerShell. Hit enter. It will ask you to provide the username and password. All right, so provide the username, provide the right password, and click on sign in. If the authentication is successful, you will get this message back that authentication is successful. And to prepare the migration, you can run another script. So I showed you in the beginning, so I have all this script ready in my local device. So this is the generate migration settings. And what it is going to do is take that package and create a region called East US for that particular subscription, and it's going to run that script. All right, so let's validate this. So resource group couldn't find, but it says that resource group will be created during the migration, and setting the default tier as premium v3, and the migration settings has been successfully created and written to the migration JSON file. So let's go and open the migration settings file. Let's run this code migration settings.json and enter. So this is the migration script which is going to run. This is the JSON file. We can modify the Azure site name. So here the Azure site name is called Blazor. So instead of Blazor, let's rename that to Blazor and some random number so we know what it is. And this name has to be a globally unique for any sort of DNS resolution. So if I had done this in the past, if this same name exists of this we have done, this will not work. And let's go to file and save and close this. The next is migrate this application. So to migrate, I'm gonna run another command. So I have a script for migration. So it's called invoke site migration ps1. You can get all of that from the Microsoft Docs. And we are going to follow all the instruction provided in the migration settings JSON. We have just seen what it is there, and we have named the application just before. And let's run this. All right. So now while this is doing this task, let us log into the Azure portal. So I'm going to go to the portal. So to go to the Azure portal, go to portal.azure.com, sign in, cancel, and let's go to the resource group. So let's go to the search box and type in resource groups. You can see there is a default resource group created. Open that, and now you can see that with an Azure App Service plan, and an app service. You can see that there is an Azure App Service and Azure App Service plan, and this is hosting the web application. But I don't think this is fully functional. So right now the migration is app happened. So if you go back to the PowerShell, you can see that all the activity, whatever happened. So based on what the information we provided in the script, it is setting the default tier as premium v3. Oh no. So based on what we have run within the migration settings.json, first it created the Azure App Service plan. Then the resource group has been created in East US, creating the Azure App Service plan, migrated the site Blazor, created the web app called this name what we have given. Then it configured some Azure settings. If there is any virtual directories need to be configured, all of that, and successfully migrated the Blazor site. So that's the default way to migrate. So because I don't think this is running yet, so let's go to the Blazor app service. And if I click on the Blazor app, yeah, you can actually see it is running in Azure, just like how it was running in on premises. So this time it is coming from the Azure website, so that is quite cool. So now to modify this, let's go into this app. Inside the Azure App Service, on the left hand side navigation, let's go click on settings. And under setting, if you scroll down, you can see scale up and scale out. So let's select the scale out app service plan. So here we have multiple scaling option. The scale out method is currently set to manual. Then there is automatic and rule based. Let's modify that to automatic. Now it is platform managed scale out based on the traffic. So based on the load, we can configure the further load settings as well. So if you scroll down, if you select automatic, you will get multiple options like what is going to be the maximum burst. So I'm going to provide like 3, or you just need to move the slider. Always ready instances, I'm going to keep it as 1. Do you want to enforce the scale out limit? Yes, let's enforce it. And maximum scale limit, again, you can move the slider. I'm going to make it as 3 and click on save. So this is how you can come in here after migration to actually leverage the scaling aspect and all the platform as a service offering within Azure to further modify your application once you move from your on-premises to Azure. Now let's go and learn about how you can enable monitoring. Another huge benefit of hosting your services in Azure is the ability to monitor your application and track any sort of specific metrics. So to do that, let's go to the application, and on the left hand side navigation, if you can't find it, you can always search here monitoring. So within monitoring, you can see there are alerts, logs, and application insight. So we're going to look into application insight. And Azure App Service allows you to easily enable monitoring through the portal to connect to your site to application insight. So what is application insight? Application insights logs metrics and application telemetry data, which features such as live metrics, usage, and smart detection, etc. So how do you turn on? All you have to do is click on turn on application insight. All right. And if you want to further read and see additional things, you can do that. We are not going to do anything. We're just going to hit apply and apply monitoring settings. That is going to turn application insight specifically for this Blazor application. All right, so the validation is being passed. Now the application is deploying. Our application insight module is being getting deployed. All right, so it is applying the changes, updating the extension. All the changes has been updated. So now, because the application insight is be ready, now let's do an availability test. The application insight availability test allows us to continuously monitor the responsiveness of the application. So within the application insight, let's go back. I'm going to click on logs and click on application insights. Let's close this notification tab, or let's go out of it and let's search for application insight. And on the search box, type in application insight and select application insight, and select the Blazor application inside application insights. And on the left menu, you can see other options. I'm going to try to find investigate. So let's expand the investigate and click on availability. So this is the place where you can actually come in and check the availability or track the monitor of the application, things like that. We can add a standard test. So let's click on add standard test. So this is how you can do a test. So give a name for your standard test. I'm going to call it as basic availability test, and the URL for the Blazor application. So you can actually go and find the URL. This is the Blazor application which is hosted in Azure. You can see that. Oops, right click, copy. You can already see that it's azurewebsite.net. Go back to the basic availability test and provide the URL. If you want, you can play around with the settings. I'm not going to do that. Let's click on create. The availability test is being successfully created. All right, so now you can see that when you come here, the availability test actually tells you where it is running from. It is testing from multiple locations. If there is an issue with this availability of this particular site, it is going to always modify and notify you. So this is quite cool. You can come in and click on modify it or edit it, and you can see where all it is being tested from: North Europe, US, Brazil, and things like that. So that is quite cool. Now let's check the health check. To do the health check, let's go to the Azure App Service. So let's go to the search box, App Service, click on App Services, select the Blazor application we migrated, and on the left hand navigation, scroll down till we find the monitoring. And under monitoring, there is something called health check. So this allows you to monitor the health of the application. So by default it is disabled, so you can click on enable and just provide the path, and I'm gonna click on save and click on save. Now here you can come in and click on metric to see any sort of health related issues. Now it is not been busted or like not, don't have much load, but in case if you want to constantly monitor the health, this provides a good visibility. Here you can actually see a line chart, area chart, and things like that, depending upon how you want to view it and things like that. So why people do a health check is because it helps you increase your application availability by rerouting requests away from unhealthy instances and replacing instances if they remain unhealthy. The next, let's go and configure the Azure load testing. So what I'm doing here is to showing you multiple things you can do within your application after you migrate that to Azure. So to enable Azure load testing, search for Azure load testing. We don't have an Azure load testing, so go ahead and click on create. I'm gonna retain that in the same resource group. Most importantly, give a name for the load testing and pick a region, and I'm not gonna make any other changes. Let's click on review and create and create. So what is Azure load testing? Azure load testing allows you to conduct load test on your application and APIs with either a custom JMeter script or a script that Azure load testing generates for you. So what we can do is we can probably simulate a scaling scenario with Azure load test to see how the application, the Blazor application reacts with automatic scaling enabled. So if you have an application running, you don't want any issues with the application, you can actually do these sort of testing to make sure that what happens when there is a load and things like that. All right, so let's learn how to do that. So the resource is created. So let's click on go to resource. So on the left hand navigation pane, you can see there is test. So click on test. We don't have any test created, so click on create. Click on create a URL based test. Test name, we don't care. It's basically the test name. Description, you can say that Blazor testing. Scroll down, click next, add request. In the URL, test URL, provide the URL. Under the load, you can come in here and modify the load. What type of parameters, how many concurrent users, all of this can be verified here. Total request, the time duration, all of this can be done here, and you can add additional things for monitoring and things like that. So click on review and create and click on create. So once the test is successfully created, then you have an ability to run the test. So again, this is to basically show you, there are heaps of deep customization here, but primarily this is to show you additional components you can get after you update or migrate your app services to Azure. All right, so the test is started, and you can actually spend time here to actually view the results and things like that. So for us, let's go and learn something new. It's called performance counter query. So in the application insights, let's search for application insights. On the application which you want to test, on the left hand side, navigation, not investigation. Let's search for live metrics. Yeah, under investigation, there is something called live metrics. So this is where we will be able to review the graph for instance of count and things like that. So if you want to check the performance of the site, you can see there is quite a lot of variable performance metrics happening, a lot of ping coming in because the test is happening in the backend. So that's why we can see a lot of spikes in terms of activity. You can see that other activities which is happening, increasing the CPU percentage, memory, network bytes, number of virtual user instance and things like that. All of that is running quite heavily. If you want to stop it, you can stop it. So we're gonna just let it run while that is happening. Let's go to the application insight live metrics. Additionally, you can run queries to find out performance counters and things like that. So let's duplicate another instance. Let's go inside logs and click on logs. Oh, we haven't configured the log analytics. Oh, that's okay. So here you would be able to come in and run queries to find um, additional instances of performance counter and things like that. So there are multiple places you can actually look into it. Logs is one place where you can run the queries. Another one is the live metric insight to get the real-time data. And now the test is running because we provided a counter to actually go and increase the load of that particular website, which we just now migrated to Azure App Services. So I hope the information provided in this particular hands-on lab was helpful. So you kind of learned how you can actually validate before moving into Azure. Then you learned about migrating to Azure, a basic app, and then you learned about few aspects of what all the things you can do within Azure once you migrate your application, things like that. I will see you on the next one. Until then, take care.